I'm Dean, I'm the dad.
I'm Laura, I'm the mom.
And I'm Krysta, I'm the daughter.
And together we are Family Plot. God, that was awesome. That was so awesome. How is everyone today?
Doing good. How are you, sir?
You know what? I'm pretty good. I've been looking forward to this. A couple things before we get into it here. First of all, welcome to the listeners. We can't do this without you. New listeners, old listeners, welcome to the show. For the new listeners, if you want to help us out, you enjoy the show and you want to help us out, a couple ways you can do that. You can make monthly donations through Patreon. $1, $3, $5, $10, I believe is what they are. Just, pick an amount you like and it'll automatically debit you once a month. And we have three options there, Team Spa Day, Team Bunny, and Team Podcast. Doesn't really matter. It all goes the same place, but anything helps. If you can't do a monthly donation, which I hold nothing against you if you can't, always remember Buy Me a Coffee. We'd make just one-time donations to the podcast. All comes to us, makes us very happy. Also, remember to, if you enjoy the show, to share it on social media. Thank you for doing that. If you don't enjoy the show, keep it to yourself. Thanks, Krysta, for joining in on that.
You're welcome.
So we made a bit of a change. We were supposed to do the Haunted White House. We will do that episode, but it's been moved further down into the show. Actually, tonight, we're going to head to Kansas City, Kansas in the 70s and 80s, where we meet Kansan and killer John EEdward Robinson, a guy who swindled and stole and eventually killed. Tonight, we celebrate spooky season investigating John EEdward Robinson, the Slavemaster, and according to some, the internet's first serial killer.
Yeah, and I want to say that I feel like this may very well be the closest thing to a real life horror movie.
Really?
That I have seen, because it's the kind of thing, as I'm reading through our topic notes, it's the kind of thing that I feel like is like Freddy Krueger just keeps coming and coming, and that's what, like, as we go through the history of this and the notes that I was reading, it's like, are you kidding me? How? How?
Yeah, the guy.
How? Anyway, we'll get to that. But yeah, that's my feeling on it. It's like, you're right. It's like it's a live horror movie that he just somehow he kept coming and coming and coming, and nobody went, maybe we should stop this.
Yeah, and it's weird. Before we and we'll dig into this more, but it's kind of weird because it's like he always has a scheme, and like murder feels almost secondary to the scheme. It's weird.
Exactly.
But first, before we dig into John EEdward Robinson, our own Krysta has some weird facts. Take it away, Krysta.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my facts corner.
Hi, Krysta.
Oh, God. Mr. Mouse is back.
That wasn't meant to be Mr. Mouse. Mr. Mouse is more, hi, Krysta. How are you? It's awesome to be here. Sorry, had to grab him and put him in a box.
Thanks. We appreciate that.
Sorry. I was doodling.
You're not supposed to doodle on pod.
We're on the air. That's disgusting.
Yeah, you can't doodle on podcast time. So, what are our weird facts about tonight?
Weird facts about featherless chickens, because Mom said so.
Well, they are kind of weird.
Look, I never knew that naked chickens were a thing until recently, and I had looked them up, and Krysta didn't have facts. And I said, hey, Krysta, featherless chickens is a great fact.
Well, you learned about them last night, because that's when we heard the thing.
Okay, that's recently.
Because I've been listening to Dan Cummins' Time Suck. It's a skeptical podcast, but it's.
Well, I'm not a huge fan of him, but the naked chicken thing was.
But I like Dan, if only because he challenges me and he's funny, and funny goes a long way with me. He's also a decent human, and that's. But anyway, he was talking about genetically modified things, and he mentioned these featherless chickens, and so of course Laura has to look up the featherless chickens, and the next thing I hear is, "Oh my God, these things are horrible." So that is how you come to featherless chickens, Krysta.
There you go.
Gotta love the backstory.
Absolutely.
Okay, so today's facts are from allocation.com. By Co-Phantom.
Cool. Hi, Co-Phantom.
Thanks for writing facts about naked chickens, because we all need to know. Excuse me. Here are some advantages of, and also let's talk about why.
Okay.
So interestingly, this strange breed is not genetically modified.
It's not.
These chickens are a result of 50-year effort using natural breeding methods. Over the last several decades, scientists have been breeding naked-necked chickens with traditional broiler chickens to eventually create this naturally featherless bird. So the naked neck chickens are chickens that just don't have any feathers on them.
Yeah, but chickens without feathers look creepy.
It does.
It's like, you see them, it's like, oh, what kind of bad life have you lived? Like the chicken's been, a drunk and stumbling through the world, just, oh, God, I'm so drunk. And then some accident robs it of feathers and it just doesn't care anymore and it's just dragging itself. That's what they all look like.
That's scary. Not surprisingly, many people object to use of this breed, reasoning that featherless chickens suffer more than normal ones already do. For instance, they have more susceptible to parasites, mosquito bites, and sunburn. On the other hand, the scientists behind the fear breed review by mentioning all the advantages that the chickens have over other more normal breeds. Now that's just scary. I don't like that. I don't like the look of naked chickens. Obviously I prefer my chicken to be feathered. If you do not feather my chicken, we're gonna have some issues here. Because I'm not taking a featherless chicken into my home.
Well, okay. But the featherless chickens, I don't know that you'd ever know that you got them because they are bred. So they're not like genetically created in a lab. They've been bred to be this way. But Ooh, boy. Just, which makes them chickens. So if somebody kills them and sells their bits, I don't know that they have to label them. So we might have bought naked chickens and not known it.
No, I meant like real, like an alive naked chicken.
Oh, I'd never buy an alive naked chicken. Like I said, they look to me like chickens that have gone through some bad times, and I would just be sad looking at them all the time.
So would that mean that the featherless neck chickens, the feathers, the fact that their necks are featherless, does that mean that is more, like, dominant on the genetic side? Because if you think about it, the other one has more feathers on its body, yes, or, like, the feathers are on both of them, but why would they be bred into these featherless chickens with no feathers whatsoever if there's more feathers than there is no feathers? That I don't know, it's just confusing. It confuses me. Science teacher, help me.
Well, basically, it's a generational thing. First, they start with the naked neck chickens, and they start mating the ones who have the most neck exposed, right? The most feathers exposed, and then they keep breeding those larger until they're losing feathers, like probably on the chest, and then once they get them. So they keep breeding them down to where these almost breed naked, and then they start breeding them with regular chickens, which gives them these regular chickens. But these regular chickens, and then they start to lose their pinions, and yeah,
right. And see, that makes sense to me because. Okay. That makes sense to me because, the more that they lose will, kind of help with taking off all those feathers.
Right. And you keep breeding the ones that have the fewest feathers until you get...
I don't know why, but that feels wrong to me, breeding your freaking child. Mother or something.
Now, see, they don't do that. But they do look for, like, if this chicken has very little feather, or has a lot of feathers missing, and this chicken does, they will breed them, hoping it will produce even fewer feathers.
Fair enough. You have to get really into that stuff, and my brain is not wanting to do that. Anyway, on to the next thing. According to the research team that developed this breed, these featherless birds pose no danger to people's health. More or less, they taste the same and have whole nutritional value. Furthermore, they come with certain advantages, including faster growth, their meat is lower in fat, they are energy efficient, and require less food to produce the same amount of meat. They can adapt to better to hot climates. The breed is more eco-friendly as there is no use of fluffing, a process that contaminates large quantities of water with feathers and fat. Truth be told, all the above sound quite logical, considering that these birds produce no feathers. Before moving, okay, that is, those are some of the events.
Cool. If I were a farmer, yeah, I would love the idea, I think, because, somebody has to pluck those birds, and it's probably the farmer. And if I had birds I didn't have to pluck, well, that would make me happier. But as a consumer, if I saw a naked chicken wandering at me I'd assume it was some sort of zombie chicken and destroy its brain.
And it would still walk around.
For a little while, because, chickens do that.
I was going to say, that's the thing chickens do.
Although, I did know someone that I never got to see him do it, but the rumor was when he would get upset, he would pick up the chickens on his property and just swing them around.
That's called wringing the chicken's neck. And that is a real thing.
But yeah, he would just grab up a chicken and spin it around and wring its neck, and they were dead. Like, they didn't run around after that. But,
It's terrifying. Please never talk to me again.
It's true, though. It's a thing.
Yeah, I'm aware. But, So,
my mom used to tell stories about her great-grandma doing that she...
Why would a parent tell yours? Why would a parent?
They live on farms. They live on a farm. It's part of life.
Oh, don't tell me that. That's scary.
But it's true. How do you think that?
I don't want
What do you think when you eat that chicken nugget? Where do you think that came from?
I don't want to think.
no, she just wants to eat the chicken nugget.
And I don't want to know where it came from.
Okay.
I don't want to know where my burgers come from.
I don't want to think about the faces.
No!
Well, protesters will often hold up signs, but protesters who try to protest will say things like, that signs say things like, "Does your food have a face?" And my response has always been, "No, that's not the part they sell at the grocery store." And then I was in California.
People eat the faces.
Not here anyway. I mean, there are countries that make head cheese.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I saw cow face at the store, at Ralph's, in fact, in Merced, California, when we lived there. And I was just like, okay, no, don't ever sell that. I don't want to see that again.
It's like if you had to eat a person on a beach, would you want to think about them while you're eating them?
Okay, well, I would never.
If you were
I would starve to death before I could eat a person. No. Yeah, I can't. No, I'm sorry. Especially not on a beach. There's probably fish.
No.
There's probably crustaceans. I know that I'm allergic, but
you'd rather be allergic and die.
Yeah.
Would you rather be? No. Okay, I'm not. We're not playing Would You Rather. We're not playing Would You Rather. But if you had to eat a person.
Nope, rocks have barnacles. We're on a beach. Rocks have barnacles. I can eat the barnacles off the rock.
No, you lost me. It would be... Nope.
You wouldn't... But the thing is, you wouldn't want to think about their face.
But I wouldn't think about their anything because I'm not eating people.
Her last name is not Dahmer.
That's right. This is not the whatever pass. I'm not Dyatlov pass. I'm not.
Okay.
The Dyatlov people didn't eat each other.
That's right. We're done. Okay.
We're done. It's fine.
Are we through the pass?
I wouldn't want to eat that anyway. No, we're talking about the disadvantages.
Oh, okay. Disadvantage me.
Considering both the commercial and humane aspects, we can say that naked chicken breed has the following disadvantages. Naked chickens have a hard time surviving in cool and cold areas.
That's right, because nobody makes chicken-sized sweaters. I just thought of just a naked chicken wearing a sweater. It's so cute.
Don't talk to me, I'm crying.
A naked chicken wearing a sweater and a toque.
No! Just a sweater.
A toque, Krysta, is one of those warm hats people wear.
I can see him.
Now that I'd look at.
Absolutely. Brownie?
I can't. Oh.
Okay, anyway, next. So they get cold because nobody makes them sweaters. Shame on corporate America. And
Individuals are more prone to parasites, mosquitoes, and sunburns.
well, yeah, because
Males sometimes
nobody makes chicken SPF sunscreen either.
No.
It's a minority. It's a minority. Instead of a chickadee, it's a minority.
Chickpea, for real.
I don't need to talk about their bodily function.
Hey!
Now I'm gonna have to bleep that. Thank you.
What?
Mom's
Chickpea?
Mom's too much. We've said worse on this show. You're really gonna bleep chickpea?
Probably not, but
The kids won't even understand it. They'll be like, what?
Okay, you were saying?
Males sometimes fail to mate as the feathers are required in certain mating rituals. Flapping their wings, showing them off.
etc.
Okay. So it's
So it's like a kind of peacock thing.
okay, and again, we could just, all of that could be fixed if they just put a little bit of effort into making chicken clothes.
Yeah, imagine, a naked rooster showing up. He's got a fedora.
That's right.
He's got a white suit with like a black shirt and a little black like tie on, like just strutting, going up to the women, just like, yeah, look at me now. I'm styling.
Right. That's right.
Maybe even make a little chicken car.
He could have a little chicken
Monocle?
monocle. That would be fire.
In a chicken car, he comes rolling up. Squawk, squawk. I don't know why I'm squawking. I don't know,
That
man.
was the worst sickest chicken ever, but you know what? Maybe he had a cold because he didn't have any clothes before.
That was the worst what chicken ever?
Chicken sound ever, but maybe he had a cold.
Okay, I could have sworn you said something else. I was like,
Did I say some? If I said something else, you'll have to bleep me. I'm sorry.
it's okay. Stuff happens.
Females are routinely injured during the mating by the rooster's nails and feet,
Okay.
as they have no feathers to protect their skin. For this reason, breeders commonly have to remove the male's nails. That's weird. Most of the time in the human world, it's the females who have to cut off their nails.
Well, so basically, if the chickens had dresses and suits, there wouldn't
That's
be.
right. We just need to dress the chicken for dinner. It'll be fine. Didn't they do that in The Beautician and the Beast? They dressed the chicken for dinner?
I don't know.
I feel like they did.
Is that a Fran Drescher movie? Because if so, no, I can't. I don't.
This chicken is a zombie.
It's not a zombie chicken.
It's a naked chicken. But
It's a naked chicken. That's right.
Oh God, I just can't. It looks like it had some sort of luckless accident.
They're very pink.
No, what it looks like? It looks like a fox just took all of his feathers for a den or something. Looks like it just went. Thank you for your. Anyways, that's it.
Yay!
Thank you, Crystal.
Those were amazing facts.
Those were wild. Yeah.
They were very featherful, even though the chickens are not.
Well, there you go. They're featherless.
So let's talk about John
Bizarre. They're bizarre.
John EEdward Robinson.
Another bizarre topic, but yes, go right ahead.
John Robinson was born in Cicero, Illinois, the third of 5 children of an alcoholic father and a disciplinarian mother. In 1957, Robinson became an Eagle Scout and traveled to London with a group of scouts who performed before Queen Elizabeth II.
Oh.
He enrolled at Quigley Preparatory Seminary in Chicago. Quigley.
It sounds like a naked chicken name.
A private boys' school for aspiring priests, so kind of, but dropped out after 1 year due to disciplinary issues. In 1961, Robinson enrolled at Morton Junior College in Cicero to become a medical radiographer, but dropped out after 2 years. In 1964, he moved to Kansas City and married Nancy Jo Lynch, who gave birth to their first child, John Jr. in 1965, followed by daughter Kimberly in 1967, and twins Christopher and Christine in 1971. So far, he seems a fairly normal guy. Maybe not cut out to be a priest, but a fairly normal guy. It's okay. I'd pause for a moment.
What's the joke, I guess?
What did the mom tell her children to do? Why did the mom tell her children to be quiet at the tennis match? Because they were making a racket.
I apologize. That pun was awful.
That pun was amazing. Thank you, Crystal.
You're welcome. It was Amazon's fault.
So now we begin to get, Robinson begins to deviate from that little path that he was on. In 1969, Robinson was arrested in Kansas City for embezzling $33,000 from the medical practice of Dr. Wallace Graham, where he worked as a radiographer using forged credentials. He was sentenced to 3 years probation. Not even jail time, 3 years probation. The following year, he violated probation by moving to Chicago without his probation officer's permission and gained a job as an insurance salesman at the R.B. Jones Company. In 1971, he was arrested for embezzling funds and was ordered back to Kansas City, where his probation was extended.
Okay, and see, this is what I'm talking about. Because as I was reading this, I'm going, okay, all right, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. What the heck is wrong with Kansas City's Judas Priest? What is it? The judicial system, because there's another word, but that instead of going, oh, hey, he's done this, he did something bad, we gave him probation, he broke the probation, he went somewhere else. He did the same bad thing, and they sent him back. What did we do? We extended his probation, because it worked so far so well the first time. Go ahead.
Well, okay, to answer that, what he had done was strictly a money crime, didn't hurt anybody, and in the early the 70s, for quite a while, they would just throw people on probation unless they hurt someone because jails were crowded. Also, he was white, so he gets the benefit of the doubt. That's not fair, that's not cool, but it's the way it was. And so, to be blunt about it, for which I apologize for what I'm about to say, but I feel like it's true. In Kansas City, in the early 70s, they basically did their best to keep white people out of jail so they had room for black people.
No, it was just stupidity and laziness. It doesn't have any... I agree with you that there is definitely racial bias, and especially in the 70s, there was great amounts of racial bias, but this is just stupid. Go ahead.
It's a little bit, I feel like it's a little bit of both of what you're saying, and there's stuff added to it as well, like maybe there's a bias against a certain person or a certain group of people that they don't like too much.
So, in 1975, Robinson's probation was extended again after an arrest on charges of securities fraud and mail fraud in connection with a phony medical consulting business he'd formed.
Again, same. And you may say that nobody was getting hurt, but I feel like there were people getting hurt. Maybe not physically, but they were definitely being hurt by this. Anyway, go ahead.
In 1977, he was named to the board of directors of a local charitable organization where he forged letters from its executive director to the mayor of Kansas City and from the mayor to civic leaders, naming him as the organization's Man of the Year. Under that guise, he hosted an awards luncheon in his honor. After completing his probation in 1979, Robinson was arrested for embezzlement and check forgery, for which he served 60 days in jail in 1982.
Wow.
After his release, he formed a bogus hydroponics business and stole $25,000 from a friend to whom he promised a fast investment return so the friend could pay for his dying wife's health care.
Yeah, he's something else.
So far, he hasn't made an honest dollar since 1969 or so, which makes me think he hadn't made much of an honest dollar before then.
That's probably pretty safe bet, Dave.
But even at this point, all he's done is white-collar crime. Like, you could almost forgive him at this point. I'm sure people were hurt by what he did, but it's all white-collar stuff. And you can make a case for, well, he's not hurting anyone directly. Indirectly, I don't know. But directly, well, he's not really hurting anybody. He's taking money. That's about it. But that fact that he basically stole $25,000 from someone who was paying for his dying wife's health care, that certainly shows callousness. And we'll come back to that later. But now, we're going to take a moment for a word from our sponsors. Hey, hon, how do you feel? Excellent.
Yay!
And now the murders.
Okay.
In 1984, having established two more fraudulent shell companies named Equiplus and Equi2, Robinson hired Paula Godfrey, age 19, ostensibly to work as a sales representative. Godfrey told friends and family that Robinson was sending her away for training. After hearing nothing further from her, Godfrey's parents filed a missing persons report. Police questioned Robinson, who denied any knowledge of her whereabouts. Several days later, her parents received a typewritten letter with Godfrey's signature at the bottom, thanking Robinson for his help and asserting that she was okay and did not want to see her family. The investigation was terminated as Godfrey was of legal age and there was no evidence of wrongdoing. No trace of Godfrey has ever been found. In 1985, using the name John Osborne, Robinson met Lisa Stasi, S-T-A-S-A, and it might be pronounced Stacy, but I'm doing my best guess here. Now, Lisa had a 4-month-old daughter, Tiffany, and he met them at a woman's shelter in Kansas City. He promised Stasi a job in Chicago, an apartment, and daycare for her infant, and asked her to sign several sheets of blank stationery.
Oh, that's not good. Yeah.
A few days later, he contacted his brother Don and sister-in-law Helen, who had been unable to adopt a baby through traditional channels, and informed them he knew of a baby whose mother had committed suicide. For $5,500 in legal fees, the couple received Tiffany, whose identity was confirmed by DNA testing back in 2000. So at this point, they have no idea that it's Tiffany. And a set of authentic appearing adoption papers with forged signatures. The forged signatures were of 2 lawyers and a judge. Stasi was never heard from again. And And there's a big swindle there, too. So, yeah, which is what he's best at. And we're not going to say good because he keeps getting arrested in probation, but it's what he's best at. Now, in 1987, Catherine Clampett, age 27, left her child with her parents in Wichita Falls, Texas, and moved to Kansas City to find employment. Robinson hired her, who reportedly promised her extensive travel and a new wardrobe. She vanished in June of that year. Her missing persons case remains open. From 1987 to 1993, Robinson was incarcerated, first in Kansas, 1987 to 1991, on multiple fraud convictions, and after that in Missouri for another fraud conviction and parole violations. At Western Missouri Correctional Facility, he met 49-year-old Beverly Bonner, the prison librarian. Upon his release, she left her husband, a prison doctor, and moved to Kansas to work for him. After Robinson arranged for Bonner's alimony checks to be forwarded to a Kansas post office box, her family never heard from her again. For several years, Bonner's mother continued forwarding her alimony checks, and Robinson continued cashing them. By then, Robinson had discovered the internet and roamed online chat rooms using the name Slavemaster, all one word, capital S, looking for women who enjoyed playing the submissive partner role during sex. An early online correspondent was Sheila Faith, aged 45, whose 15-year-old daughter Tiffany was a wheelchair user due to spina bifida. Spina bifida is a pretty serious...
But the question is, why do we need to know this? The question is, why is her daughter?
Because and obviously he was taking advantage of these people in absolutely every way he possibly could.
I hate when that happens. I hate when people are like that. Just continue, I'm not bad.
Now, Robinson, portraying himself as a wealthy businessman and philanthropist, offered to pay Debbie's medical expenses and give Sheila a job. In 1994, the mother and daughter moved from Fullerton, California to Kansas City and immediately disappeared.
Yeah.
Robinson cashed Faith's pension checks for the next 7 years. Robinson became well-known in increasingly popular BDSM chat rooms. In 1999, he offered a job in a bondage relationship to Isabella Lewicka, a 21-year-old Polish immigrant living in Indiana. When she moved to Kansas City, Robinson, who was still married to Nancy, gave Lewicka an engagement ring and brought her to the county registrar, where they paid for a marriage license that was never picked up. It is unclear whether Lewicka believed she and Robinson were married. She told her parents she had married, but never told them her husband's name. She did sign a 115-item slave contract that gave Robinson almost total control over every aspect of her life, including her bank accounts. Sometime during the summer of 1999, she disappeared. Robinson told a web designer he employed that she had been caught smoking marijuana and deported. Around the time of Lewicka's disappearance, a licensed practical nurse named Suzette Troughton moved from Michigan to Kansas to travel the world with Robinson as his submissive sex slave.
It's not very PG-13, but, you know.
Troughton's mother received several typed letters signed by her daughter and purportedly mailed while the couple was abroad, although the envelopes all bore Kansas City postmarks. The letters were, her mother said, uncharacteristically mistake-free. Later, Robinson told Troughton's mother that she had run off with an acquaintance after stealing money from him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, poor man. He's just You know.
Now, see, I get I'm beginning to think that you don't like our Mr. John EEdward Robinson.
Do you think? I don't know how he got away with all of this nonsense and continued to get away with all of this nonsense. Of all the unmitigated gall, this guy just continued to get away with more and more and more. Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he keep escalating and killing more and more people? Wow.
I'm with you. I was trying to be facetious.
It's probably ugly.
Now, let's focus on the victims here for a minute, because we like to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Because what happens to them is unfortunate.
Now, Paula Godfrey was an employee of John Robinson at his management consulting firm, Equi2, in Overland Park, Kansas. She was 19 years old. Robinson told her he was sending her to San Antonio, Texas, for training in clerical skills with a group of other women.
Mm-hmm.
And we really don't know a whole lot else about Paula Godfrey because she was 19.
Right.
She was really, her adult life was really just beginning.
Sure.
Now, Lisa Stasi was a single mother who was living with her 4-month-old daughter, Tiffany. They were living in a battered women's shelter in Kansas City, Kansas. There she was introduced to Johnson, and the people who introduced her to Johnson
mm-hmm.
were children's services.
Well, that's just lovely, isn't it? Wow. Way to go. Again. Wow, state of Kansas. Good job.
Now, Johnson at the time said he had an outreach program that would provide her with free room and board and enable her to complete her GED.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for 16 years, both the mother and the baby were presumed to be dead. In 2000, investigators discovered Robinson gave the baby to his brother Donald Robinson and his wife Helen. She was raised as Heather Tiffany Robinson, and learned the truth about her mother when she was 16. Police believe Stasi was targeted so Robinson could give his brother a baby. Catherine F. Clampett moved to Kansas to live with her brother's family after a struggle with drug and alcohol abuse, and left her son with her parents in Texas. She was hired by Robinson at his business, Equi2. Again, it's the management consulting firm in Overland Park, Kansas. The job required frequent travel, according to Robinson. And Clampett did not return home from a trip, and her brother reported her missing on June 15th, 1987. Beverly Bonner was a prison librarian at the Western Missouri Correctional Center.
Okay, I kind of don't feel sorry for that one.
Bonner's husband, Dr. William Bonner, was a prison physician who treated Robinson and other inmates. The couple filed for divorce in 1993, and she told her husband she was helping Robinson find property for a hydroponics project.
Mm-hmm.
Towards the end of her marriage, she said she was moving to Chicago. After their final divorce proceeding in 1994, she was never seen or heard from again, according to court filings.
Mm-hmm.
Sheila Faith was a widowed mother of a daughter with cerebral palsy and spina bifida. She struggled financially and met Robinson through a personal ad in the spring of 1994. Robinson said he was a wealthy executive and told Sheila he would take her and her daughter on a cruise and pay for Debbie to go to private school. She told her friend she was going to visit John, but they never came home. Debbie Lynn Faith was the daughter of Sheila Faith, born October 7th, 1978. She had several birth defects, including cerebral palsy. She went missing along with her mother. Isabella Lewicki was born in Poland and moved to the United States with her family when she was 11. She began attending Purdue University in 1996 and had a strong interest in the arts. Her friends told investigators she was also involved in alternate lifestyles such as BDSM. Lewicka told a friend she was moving to Kansas City, Kansas in 97, where Johnson would train her to be dominant, according to court filings. She also told the friend she'd be working for his business to do secretarial work and helping him to illustrate manuscripts.
He definitely had a whole story going, that's for sure.
Yep. Suzette Marie Troughton was born to Carolyn and Harry Troughton, the youngest of 5 children. Troughton was very close to her mother, who lived close in Monroe, Michigan. The mother and daughter talked daily. However, her mother had no idea her daughter was involved in BDSM, and thus had no idea how she became involved with Robinson, who lived in KCK. Now, Robinson hired her to care for his elderly father. She said the job paid $60,000 and required frequent international travel. Once Troughton moved to Kansas, she continued calling her mother daily. On March 1st, she told her mother she was going on a trip with Johnson. She never heard from her daughter again. So those are our victims. And it's heartbreaking to me because most of these women didn't come from any sort of a good background, or had things going on in their lives that like Sheila Faith and her daughter. I mean, she was a widow raising a daughter that had birth defects as best she could. And this is all just cruel and too much.
This guy was literally the worst of worst. What is the word that I'm trying to use? The worst of the worst.
Of the worst.
No, but he is a
predator.
Yeah, I mean the worst type of predator though, because he is preying on people who are already suffering, already struggling, but trying to make a better life for themselves, trying to move themselves into a better place. I mean, the one mom with the infant daughter was in a women's shelter trying to get a better life for herself. So she left an abusive relationship trying to make a better life for herself, and then she gets snatched up and whatever happened to her, and her kid gets sold to somebody else. It just...
Yeah, that's doo-doo. That's not cool.
He is just the absolute worst piece of scum.
Well, I know some that I think are worse, but...
I feel like everything in this world, there are chances that somebody can have a mind so brutal and so scary that not even we can think about. There are chances that people can think for so long and plan for so long, plan like gruesome stuff that we don't even know about yet. And I feel like everything can be topped at some point.
Well, sure.
Right. Now, over time, Robinson became increasingly careless, and his ability to avoid detection declined. By 1999, he had attracted the attention of authorities in Kansas and Missouri, as his name frequently came up in missing persons investigations.
Gee, really? Dang. Okay, well, it's about stinking time.
Robinson was arrested in June 2000 at his farm near Lacine, Kansas, after a woman filed sexual battery complaint against him, and another charged him with stealing her sex toys.
Why is that what you worry about?
The theft charge finally gave investigators the probable cause they needed to obtain search warrants. On the farm, a task force found the bodies of 2 women, later identified as Lewicka and Troughton, in 2 85-pound chemical drums.
Lovely.
Across the state line in Missouri, investigators searched a storage facility where Robinson rented 2 garages. They found 3 similar chemical drums containing Bonner, Faith, and Faith's daughter.
So he didn't even, he didn't do away with them. He just stuck them in a drum and just kept them for all of this time. For decades.
Yes.
Sad.
Wow. Now, when you say Lacine, I that name sticks out to me. So maybe in passing I had heard something about it, but I really, to be honest, I don't think I knew anywhere near the details on the story. It's just nauseating and heartbreaking.
Yeah, and it's local.
Yes.
It's heartbreakingly local.
Yes.
Like if this guy was operating now, I know people that would have been his victims. It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
In 2002, Robinson stood trial in Kansas for the murders of Troughton, Lewicka, and Stasi, along with multiple lesser charges. After the longest criminal trial in Kansas history, he was convicted on all counts. He received the death penalty for the murders of Troughton and Lewicka and life imprisonment for Stasi's murder because she was killed before Kansas reinstated the death penalty.
I see.
He received a 5 to 20-year prison sentence for interfering with parental custody of Stasi's baby, 20.5 years for kidnapping Troughton, and 7 months for theft. After his Kansas convictions, Robinson faced murder charges in Missouri based on evidence discovered in that state. Missouri aggressively pursued capital punishment convictions, so Robinson's attorneys wanted to avoid a trial there. Chris Koster, the Missouri prosecutor, insisted as a condition of any plea bargain that Robinson lead authorities to the bodies of Stasi, Godfrey, and Clampett. Robinson, who has never cooperated with investigators, refused. However, Koster faced pressure to make a deal because his case was not technically airtight. Among other issues, there was no unequivocal evidence that any of the murders had been committed within his jurisdiction. Robinson, on the other hand, faced pressure to plead guilty to avoid an almost certain death sentence in Missouri, and failing that, yet another capital murder trial back in Kansas. When it became clear that the women's remains would never be found without Robinson's cooperation, a compromise was reached. In a carefully scripted plea in October 2003, Robinson acknowledged that Koster had enough evidence to convict him of capital murder for the deaths of Godfrey, Clampett, Bonner, and the Faiths. Though his statement was technically a guilty plea and was accepted as such by the Missouri court, observers remarked that it was notably devoid of any remorse or specific acceptance of responsibility. Robinson received a life sentence without a possibility of parole for each of the 5 murders. In November 2015, the Kansas Supreme Court vacated the Troughton and Stasi murder convictions on technicalities, but upheld the Lewicka conviction and its accompanying death sentence. The ruling marked the first time Kansas' highest court has upheld a death sentence since the reinstatement of capital punishment there in 1994.
Wow.
Robinson currently remains on death row at the El Dorado Correctional Facility in Kansas.
So, in other words, he almost got away with it again because of technicalities.
Yep. Well, at least with that, but Missouri still has a case. And
Wait a second. Is this man still alive?
yeah.
Yeah, he's in prison. He's still alive. He's still there.
Die. Why are you still even here?
In 2005, Nancy Robinson filed for divorce after 41 years of marriage, citing incompatibility and irreconcilable differences.
You ain't just whistling Dixie, sister. Holy crud.
In 2006, Stasi's daughter, known since her faked adoption as Heather Robinson, filed a civil suit against Truman Medical Center in Kansas City and social worker Karen Gaddis.
Good.
The suit accused Gaddis of putting Robinson in contact with Stasi and her newborn daughter in 1984 after he told Gaddis that he ran a charitable organization assisting unwed mothers of white babies. In 2007, Heather and the hospital reached a settlement for an undisclosed sum, which Robinson said she would split with her biological grandmother, Patricia Sylvester. Heather won a second judgment in 2007, preventing Robinson from profiting from any potential book sales or film rights. In 2006, the body of a young woman was found in a barrel in rural Iowa, where Robinson reportedly had a business partner. She was initially considered a possible victim of Robinson, but was later identified as Lois Tomich, who police believe was killed by her ex-husband. Kansas and Missouri police note that long stretches of Robinson's time remain unaccounted for, and they fear that there are additional undiscovered victims. He's maintained the secrets about what he's done with the women. He won't ever tell. It's the last control he's got, said one investigator. There are probably other barrels waiting to be opened, other bodies waiting to be found. Now, Robinson's criminal activities were profiled on episodes of Cold Case Files, also Investigation Discovery's FBI, Criminal Pursuit, Sins and Secrets, Vanity Fair Confidential, It Takes a Killer, and Deadly Doctors, as well as Forensic Files and The New Detectives on the Discovery Channel. 3 books were also written about John and the case. The bodies of Lisa Stassi, Catherine Clampett, and Paula Godfrey have never been discovered. So that's John EEdward Robinson.
That's perfect. Yes. I think this is probably the most upsetting case that we've talked about. I really, it's just...
It's so sad to me because it's like all the guy cared about was money, and the deaths were inconsequential to him. Yep. And that's, I can't even.
And how do you have 4 children of your own and do all of these things to, how do you go home and look at your kids? I mean, I guess BTK did the same thing, and don't think he did all of the god-awful things that he did, but just, it's just, I think what gets me so bad about this, and Krysta, plug your ears if you want to, because this is kind of outside of the PG-13, but as somebody who spent a good deal of my youth being curious about those alternative lifestyles and spending time getting to know some of these people. And there are people who take part in those, but are decent, hardworking people, and that is just part of who they identify as. It bothers me that he used that just as another tool of his to get money and to take advantage of people. And just... there are so many good people who are out there on the internet, and this is he's what parents whisper about. He's what that girlfriend tells you. Oh, you only meet creeps on the internet. He's that creep. It's not the majority. It is the minority, but he took full advantage at every turn, and it's just heartbreaking.
Honestly, agree, but at the same time, I kinda don't feel any emotion because of how terrible it is. Honestly, at this point, I feel like anything I say or do will not remotely add anything or subtract anything from this. It's just there. Honestly, there's nothing we could have done about it. I wish we could have done something. I'm terribly upset that people had to go in that manner, and I'm terribly upset that they'd even use that. Something that people do to get stuff out of their brain. Like, that isn't even a remote deal. Not in anyone's. And it shouldn't be. I mean, I guess it is. But for me and if anyone around me thought that way, I wouldn't really want to be even related, or I wouldn't want to be in that sort of area where there are people like that. Like, I honestly just get awful that thing for that.
Yeah, I just... Like, I just can't wrap my mind. God, I've been as broke, and never once did it ever occur to me to kill someone for money or swindle money out of people. And just the fact that, like, I feel like if he'd been left out long enough, he would have eventually, like, built a brick wall across a highway or something, and like when people smashed into it, he'd just go loot the stuff out of their car. Yeah, I mean, it's
definitely not the reason I would say with all of the things that we just talked about.
It's almost unbearable how he treated us.
Yeah,
honestly.
Well, I mean, all of it's pretty unbearable that he was so disgusting and despicable.
And yet he was a charitable organization's man of the year.
I just feel like if somebody starts doing all this stuff, you wouldn't want to just put them on probation. You'd want... I feel like
I don't understand how he continued to be able to swindle and convince these people with all of that. Wow.
Why would you put somebody on probation if they start showing that kind of attitude? You don't just want to throw them in probation and say, oh, that'll be fine for a couple of months or years or whatever. Nah, give this person some therapy. They need it.
And see, it makes me wonder, I don't think he's a psychopath because the murders weren't the point. I think he might be a sociopath because he wasn't afraid of the murders. Like it was just something unpleasant he had to do.
Yeah. And the fact that he kept all the bodies.
That's terrifying.
Like, whoa.
Like, why would you do that? You go and smell that for weeks and months. Why would you? Here.
And then I don't get his wife. How did she not know?
That's the question everyone's asking right now. Why did this happen? How did it happen this way? Honestly, we don't know. But this man needs some therapy, a cup of tea, and then to go to jail.
I personally, hope he gets on the Dahmer Express or something. Whew. So, thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us for Creepy Season. Robinson definitely qualifies as creepy.
Yeah, I definitely have the creep after that. Not wrong.
Yeah, no.
Join us next week as we round out Spooky Season talking conspiracy theories with people in the position to know, our friends at Drunk Theory.
Boy, aren't they ever.
Bye.
Bye.